Alright guys, welcome back. You are still tuned into
Fantastic Fridays.
And we're here with you every Friday. And all the Friday them win on them Friday. Don't ask me no question.
We're there.
From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Alright, so from you hear that sound, you know it's your time for
Talk the Ting with Kim.
And for this week, we're gonna have, it's technically a part 2 to last week.
Yeah.
Last week we discussed, are arguments healthy in relationships? And based on the conversation and the feedback from Unus, we realized that it is. It's just dependent on how you deal with it. So arguments aren't problematic. Actually, can even make you closer if it is that you missed that information and that conversation. No, so every single Talk the Ting with Kim episode is recorded and it is shared on our YouTube channel. So go over to YouTube, type in Funtastic Fridays, and we got you, all right?
Yeah.
So for this week now, we're doing conflict resolution. I know that's what you saw on the flyer, but we're making it a bit different. We're going to talk about conflict resolution in relationships, right? So I had to narrow it down because when I was doing my research, putting together the content, I realized that conflict resolution is vast.
Yeah, man.
And some of the things that you can do in a relationship to resolve conflict, you can't do that in a friendship and workplace. For example, one of the things exactly. I was about to say we spoke about that. So you can probably use physical touch to help.
Nose to nose
get rid of the tense. Exactly, but you can't do that with your co-worker and your brethren.
That's a different problem. Going start. Yeah.
So I decided to sort of like separate that conversation, and now we're gonna focus on conflict resolution in relationships. And then guess what? After that, we're gonna touch upon all the other relationships, right? So let's get into it. And as usual, guys, I love feedback. I love questions. I love to hear you guys' opinions. So feel free to share it, whether it is that you're on the Instagram live, or if not, you can go to our WhatsApp line 876-792-3530 and drop your feedback there, right? Can't me know over to say you're there.
Yeah.
So I will ask Lionel to check that out for me.
Bring it up right now.
And big up Michael Mendes. Thank y'all for joining. And Jimmy QJA said nostalgic, not lie.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we don't tell lies around here, right?
Yeah, man. You know the studio set is, man.
I love it. I figured that's what you were saying. I figured.
Yeah, man.
All right, so let's get into the topic. Conflict exists in all relationships. By conflict, we specifically mean verbal disagreements and arguments. People disagree sometimes, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. You have the right to have a different opinion from your partner. What's important is that you communicate effectively and in a healthy way that allows you to understand each other better and make your relationship stronger. So this ring a bell? This sound like something we talked about last week? I feel like we were talking about this, that, arguments aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you deal with it. We're not getting on the whole physical fight thing. Nope. We done talk last week, say, that's just like a no-go, none-tall.
Yeah.
Not even an option. But then it's really how you choose to address it, all right? So now let's narrow down this topic to conflict resolution in relationships, as we said.
Yeah.
Relationships can be challenging. When you enter into a long-term partnership with someone, you have to accept that the two of you have different life histories, family backgrounds, and value systems, all of which can lead to different opinions. These differences can cause relationship arguing, which isn't necessarily negative. It can just be a difference in beliefs. As we said, some people might pour the milk first. Last week we had this conversation. Some pour the milk before the cereal. Some pour the cereal before the milk.
And
is
some
one of them
no
wrong?
Milk or cereal,
and some none of milk nor cereal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is one of them wrong? No, everybody
No.
just have a preference, right? So that's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily negative, but it actually helps you to understand and know a bit more about your partner. So, for the success of your partnership, it is critical to learn how to handle arguments in a relationship so that disagreements don't lead to the breakdown of your relationship. So if you're struggling with constant arguments, so this is not the constant back-to-back every day, what the song say? Every day you're ning in my ears.
Yeah.
Them type of argument. If you're struggling with that, it might be because you are engaging in one of the 4 unhealthy argument styles. Did you know that there were
Argument
unhealthy
style.
argument styles. Like, there's research for everything these days.
Listen me, so what on there? So you start meet a new person and they start to, argument
We
style.
should discuss
And you say, let's see which style you're going to use.
which argument style are you known to use. This is not a question to do or to ask when you're dating.
Mm-hmm.
What is your argument style?
I tell you.
I think we need to add this, right?
I think Jamaicans mostly use cuss you off.
Because yeah. I think that's a part of it, right?
Mm.
So, but yeah, there's actually unhealthy argument styles, and according to the research I did, there are 4 types.
But
So
before you jump into the type, Jimmy Q says cereal first. How you gonna know how much in there if you pour the milk first? Because you see what you're throwing. You can always see what you're throwing. So
for me, it's dependent. You see, growing up, my mom used to make warm milk. The Lasco she used to do.
Yeah.
So because that would make it soggy, you have to do
the
milk first.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you're gonna mix up, because I know after person don't just pour milk, they mix either condensed milk, or whatever. So you have to mix it first. So you have to mix the water first, then you pour in the cereal.
That's what I did. But then as an adult, I tried the cold milk way. You know, just box milk in the fridge. And I realized it works when I pour the milk after. So it's really dependent, you know.
A different style. That's
to each their own. I know them say
I've done both.
Exactly. I know them say one type, is
and
psychotic, but that's not mine. That's not. I don't know. I can't speak to that.
So now semi.
We're halfway there.
All right. So let's get into the points here.
The unhealthy argument styles. So number 1 of the 4, criticism. Arguing a lot in a relationship may result from criticism, in which a person complains or attacks their partner, resulting in the partner feeling offended. So that's one argument style. Say some people just like criticize, everything and like point finger, or you know how to this, or you know how to that, right? That's one argument style. Number 2, defensiveness. When arguing in a relationship, a defensive person will protect themselves by insisting they are correct or by interrupting their partner to explain their position. So you have some people, no matter how you try to reason with them, you can't get your point across because basically anything what you have to say not really add up to what they want.
So
here
it's like
now.
A responsive argument. So
exactly. It's a one-sided argument.
To them, I go to market. Well, me never go market.
Yeah, but me don't tell you what me don't tell you. And, well, me the business, kind of thing you can say problematic, but you don't even know what I'm about to say, So that's a defensive person. They insist that they're correct, or they keep interrupting you. So that's another argumentative style. Guys, I want you guys, while listening to this, to try to figure out which one are you.
God, Shakespeare said, me that. Very defensive. Why
and that's
can't
one of the easiest ways, because when you feel attacked, because that's really what arguments are. You feel like somebody coming at you, so automatically your defense go jump in, So be real with yourself.
Think I'm a mix of a couple of them, because
you never hear the next one, you just have a mixture of a couple of them.
No, 2 guns, so I'm a mix of a couple of them.
Okay, fair enough. And guys on the live, let me know as well, which one you think you are, or are you a mixture? It depends on the day, it's a different version. So number 3, contempt. A husband and wife arguing can become constant when partners display contempt for the other during disagreements.
Right.
Someone who uses contempt will show a complete lack of respect for their partner by intentionally hurting them with their words. So now these people, they're not argue for argue's sake. No, actually, they're not arguing to solve the problem. It's like a tit for tat. Can I say something more hurtful than you? You just said something I'ma feel a whole heap of ways. So I guess me wanna feel the way now. I'ma start settings too. Those are people who they use the contempt argument style.
No, so give me a little example, Kimmie. Like,
so for example,
like, you just nasty say you put on your shoes everywhere. Well, you just
exactly. So instead, even if you're genuinely wrong, you find something else to say. Well, remember, say you did this now. So instead of actually addressing the issue and trying to find a solution, we find some point finger at you and throw at you, and sometimes you just don't even want to hear the argument, so you're no disrespecting them, you're nonchalant. I can't bother with your foolishness. You start fan them off, they're talking to you, you walk off, leave them, stuff like that. That's actually disrespect. Because if I'm talking to you, even if you don't want to hear what I have to say right now, better you tell me to listen. I can't have this conversation right now.
But ladies, them and men too, they don't know them start putting all them headphones.
Yeah. Exactly. Or take up phone, go and call a friend. I don't have time for you or whatever it is. That is disrespectful. So that is contempt. And the final version or the final argument style is stonewalling.
Oh.
So, as the name might suggest, stonewalling involves putting up a wall during times of conflict. A stonewalling arguer will physically distance themselves from their partner by withdrawing or refusing to respond during disagreements.
Okay.
So people might just like walk off and let people alone.
Or block you right away.
And ignore you, and no matter what you're trying to say, it's just, it's basically falling on deaf ears. I see some comments coming on live. I can't see it on my phone.
One says, me soon forward. Alright, no worry. Jimmy says, boy, a mixture, depending on the situation, but I haven't argued in years. God is good.
All the time, Jimmy.
Keep it going.
Hold on, Jimmy, is that because you figured out a formula for the relationship? Or you just say, no, a single life to my thing is way more peaceful?
No.
That's what some people say now.
I think Jimmy Q just basically say, oh, happy wife, happy life.
No, that's enough for asking because some people automatically deduce that you don't have argument because you're single. Because some people just equate relationship with problems. And that's not so. Right? So that's why I had to ask that. But we're not fasting, Jimmy. We just want to know if it's relevant to the conversation. We want to know why you're not arguing. Are you arguing healthily or having healthy discussions? Let me say that.
So like
are you having healthy discussions? Or is it that you just say, I'm avoid problem?
And make sure right. She always right.
Exactly. If you argue, you know what? Yes, honey. Right? That's what I wanted to get out there.
Alright.
So
Cardi Shakespeare says, all if you leave the house, when you come back, me ready again.
Yeah, because she give you time. Listen, just like how when you go work, you need a lunchtime or you need a break time.
Don't worry.
She give you a break time and they come back and she's ready with new information, right?
Oh, jeez.
So, the 4 types, as we mentioned just now, were criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. I see another comment on or someone just tuning in.
Yeah.
Alright, so if you want to know how to handle arguments in relationships, a good starting point is to avoid the behaviors we just mentioned, right? So let's not do the stonewalling. If you're actually gonna have a discussion or you're just an argument, don't walk and left it. Don't ignore it. It doesn't go anywhere. Actually, the more you ignore it and walk away, leave it, is the more problematic it becomes. Because if I was on let's say 40% upsetments.
Wow.
Yes, we have terms for them something here. If I was on a 40% upsetment, I'm going to talk to you just nonchalant and brush me off and walk off, it don't move up, It
just escalated.
It escalates, become like, what? I'm trying to get my point across and you know business? Yeah, so that's not going to help anybody, right? So let's try not to do the whole stonewalling, the whole contempt where we're just trying to say hurtful stuff, the whole defensiveness where we're not even trying to listen, we're just trying to defend why I did what I did, and you need to understand where I'm coming from. It was just being very defensive. And the whole criticism, you see that something there?
Yeah.
That criticizing something there, a lot of us are excellent at this. Let's sort of undo the skill. Then we could put some energy into some better skills, some more positive skills. So let's try to not emulate some of these practices. No, people often ask, is it normal to have arguments in a relationship? Which ties into the topic that we had last week.
Yeah.
The answer is that it is pretty typical to have some disagreements. No two people are entirely alike, so they will have conflicts from time to time. It's a gum.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, right? Arguments in relationships can become unhealthy when you are constantly arguing over trivial matters. This signals that you are picking small fights because of an underlying issue in your relationship, right? So some causes of arguing over small things can include having too high of an expectation for each other. So some of us, either you have this perfect man or perfect woman in your head.
Yes.
Probably the movies contributed to this, ladies. We're very guilty of this. And if him not carry me roses home at least 5 days a week, then clearly he's not the one for me, because Mr. Right in my life are gonna give me flowers 5 days a week. That's some unhealthy expectations. You're actually comparing him to some movie character that somebody sat down and wrote this whole role for this person based on what they know women want, and you work with this and that is your Prince Charming, and anybody who can meet this is a problem and then can't stick around, right? That's an example of having too high of an expectation. Then being intolerant of each other. So this is one of the things I don't understand. There's so many people, I believe, let me put the I believe part.
Yeah.
Completely intolerant of each other, but they're still together.
Well,
like everything when your partner do irritates you. You can't butter everything. Boy, maybe like see him, right? Intolerant of each other, but yet we keep the relationship going. This doesn't sound healthy, none at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Right? So that's another reason we have a lot of small arguments. Having a tendency to take out frustrations on your partner. So that's another thing. A lot of us, we have problems outside of the relationship, whether it's work, family, friendship, money, right? Some things that sometimes don't even directly affect the relationship, but because you don't know how to deal with that, or you're not processing that correctly, you come take it up on your partner, right? She probably overcooked the piece of chicken a little bit, and you just and you're gone overboard. You can't bother with this, because you're not coping with your problems correctly. So you take out your stress and your frustrations on your partner.
All right.
Another reason we have a lot of small arguments is one partner is taking on too many responsibilities. So for relationships, guys, I know it's not, as we've already deduced in previous segments, relationships aren't 50-50 all the time, right? But it can't be a case where everything is on one person. Let's say, for example, finances. When you just say, all right, because I'm named man, everything depends on him, right? That's unfair. Unless that's the agreement in your relationship and you guys are okay with that, then that's fine. But you can't just come with this whole thought process that, okay, him name man, same name for that. That has to be a conversation. Same thing with women. Automatically, you name woman, so you do the washing, the cleaning, the cooking. Me not lift no finger otherwise. Because clearly I work. But if you check it out, most relationships nowadays, both persons are working. So you have to realize that there's a dynamic change. So we can't really stick to tradition unless you're going to live traditionally, where the wife stays home and the husband goes to work, So you can't have one partner taking on too much. It has to be divided.
Some sort of local balance.
Some little division. And we're not going to say who takes on what, because to each their own. But as we've said actually in a previous show, play to their strengths. If you realize somebody better with the managing, then make them deal with the bills. If you realize somebody else a bit more handy around the house, make them deal with the little fixtures and so. If you realize somebody good with like creating business plans, and work together and say, all right, you work on that, me work on the finances. So come with play to their strength and come with a game plan. But you cannot have too much of the responsibility of the relationship lasting being on one person.
All right. And then Cardi Express says, well, arguments is a must, it's just how you deal with it. And she said, well, how she saw it growing up, her dad worked, mom stayed at home.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
that is fine, but that has to be an agreement, because as I told y'all, in my upbringing, my mom worked, was going to school. My dad said, hey, I want my wife to stay home and take care of the kids. And because them working together, they saw it as a fitting compromise. So she did that. He said, I'll provide. You will be the homemaker. I was going to say home care right now.
No, but home care is fine.
Yeah, but you do that part and I will bring in the money. But that has to be a discussion. It can't just be you come and just dictate to every man, no, you need to do this. You need to do this.
Have a conversation. She likes the idea, but she's too feisty to do that.
No.
Can't we have to get into the counseling session. Come in how feisty this coming at this. You can be humble when you deal with your boo, all right?
Exactly. But one thing I want you guys to realize, though, you see them small arguments there? Those small arguments. The arguments that sometimes you look back at it, you're like, why were we arguing about that? Right? That's what we call small arguments. Like, it never really made no sense to argue about. So small arguments often signal that you are trying to distract yourself from another issue.
Right.
Let me repeat that one here. Small arguments often signal that you are trying to distract yourself from another issue, such as the fact that one of you is overwhelmed, or maybe that you are simply not communicating well. If this is the case, some of the best relationship argument advice will tell you to try to focus on the underlying issue rather than continuing to pick fights over small matters. So I think when I read this, it reminded me of what we said last week, Lionel, when I was saying, a lot of arguments, I think why they explode and they get bigger than they need to be is because there were previous arguments that we did not solve.
Yeah, it's true. There are a lot of, little things we're still under the rug.
We brush it under the rug because we just want peace. Or we don't really believe the explanation, but we say, you know what, I love her. Or I love him. So it's like in the back of your mind, it's still there and it's affecting your relationship, but you're convincing yourself you're over it, right? So now any other issue will come up after is now a bigger issue than it actually really is. Right. So this is the case. There are small fights now that can start pick now. Oh, you never give me 2 banana in my plate. Me usually get 2 banana, but you give me 1 banana with dumpling this time. What kind of life did you start arguing about those stuff, but chances are there's a deeper issue there that is either unresolved and you either don't know, or some of us are guilty of convincing our partner that the issue is resolved when it really is not.
And then, as Kaji said, boy, it's a learning process, Lionel. But yes, for true, even in relationship, you definitely have to take a little time to learn how your partner responds to certain thing. And you have to learn how to respond a little differently. If you realize if you have to respond a certain way and your partner is affected by it, be smart enough to adjust a little bit, meet them somewhere where you can say, all right, me I'm going to do this and you do that. As Kim says, some discussion has to take place so you can work on a balance.
And sometimes it don't even need, before it gets to discussion stage, sometimes you have to evaluate you and see, is this a me problem or, because, alright, so I'm going to use an example to explain this. I had an issue recently, fairly recently, and before addressing it, I started wondering or trying to consider or figure out what the source of the issue was. Then I realized that it was, I guess, trauma from past relationships that you are using now. So now I had to evaluate, is this really a problem in my current relationship, or is this something that I didn't deal with properly from the last relationship, and should I be putting this on this person? Is it fair for this person now to be fighting a battle that they literally didn't do anything, they didn't initiate this, right? So sometimes you have to actually reason with yourself, take that time to see, is it something that I need to fix or adjust, heal, because I remember seeing a video recently and it was saying most of us think we're out here healed. We're single and we think we're out here healed because nobody's there triggering us. And them say when you're in a relationship, you're gonna naturally get triggers because, as we say, you're 2 different people, 2 different backgrounds, 2 different experiences, especially people who have been through relationships. So chances are, when in a relationship and you really care about this person, that's the easiest person to trigger,
Alright.
And if it's anybody who gets under your skin, it is the person you love.
Definitely. And then I think the person you love, sometimes they do try to give you a little more trouble than normal. Because as usual, you've seen the posts, you've seen the messages posted by persons as well. So listen to me, part of the ladies, their job have to stress out the man.
Exactly. So some people already have that belief.
Yeah, it's already set in there. And then Carty says, boy, nah lie, me have a big communication problem. But Carty, you work with a lot of books and words. You don't understand what I go on.
So you're telling her to write her feedback in a book and send it over?
No, well, she can look on them and get examples of how to communicate.
Yes, she says she only know what book.
She says your partner tests you for true. Yeah, man.
No, your partner is out to everybody. I always say people closest to you can get a reaction out of you.
Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally. Because you want to love them, so you expect them to just know everything for make you happy. So when you do something for make you happy, it's like you say, wait, this person is definitely against me. And it's just people being people.
And it's reality, because if somebody externally tell you something hurtful, you're in a business, you're like, okay, sticks and stones, people say what they want to say. But if somebody close to you says something hurtful, man, them think they cut you deep and you take that through life with you. Somebody actually care about.
Yeah, somebody simply said to you and say, oh, man, I really like how that shirt they look, You say, okay, whatever.
Okay, that's fine.
I already boo now come in and say, okay, that shirt that you feel.
You take it off. See
so you like my clothes.
Right, you actually hide it after that because you never want nobody to see.
I watch and me never said nothing about your tear back shoes.
Defensive.
Whole face mash up.
Yep. So, trust me, guys, people who are closest to you are the ones who can get a reaction out of you. But we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we are going to give you some tips on how to resolve conflict in relationships.